Hey Internet, I'm Chaz.
And I'm Dan. Welcome to Wine is Serious Business, episode 270 something. We've got a big queue of interviews, shows we might throw away, who knows what else. So we'll know what number this is when it comes up. No.
It's usually the second shows on a given night.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, okay.
Nice quiet space, good lighting. Got a great guest here today. John Grochau hasn't been with us for a couple of years. We're really happy we were able to make this happen again. So
yeah, me too.
Thanks for extending the invitation.
Yeah.
In a great spot downtown Portland right now. Got a cool office down here. 4 wines in front of us. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you've been up to over the last couple of years?
Bouncing around. We've moved a few times. We just leased our own winery up in the Eola Amity Hills, right next, actually the former Brooks location, right next to their new winery. So it's pretty exciting. I got a tasting room open on the weekends now, and just going full throttle and doing it good, doing it better.
Any new wines or?
Well, the Gamay Noir, as you see here, we'll taste tonight. We also have done a little more bed, We've done Tempranillo in the past, but we continue doing that. And but Pinot Noir is always the focus, and the more we're into it. 14 years now, so we're.
Yes, you've been making wine a while.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. We just become more and more focused on single vineyard and AVA blends as we continue forward. So it's pretty exciting.
And then a lot of single vineyard stuff I saw too.
Yeah. We kind of, when we started, we really started with the idea of making blends of many different Pinot Noir vineyards to make the most complete wine, kind of like many different ingredients to make the best soup, so to speak. But as you study it more and more and get into it more and more, it's really about the expression of a single site on a given vintage that's the most interesting, most compelling to me. And so we've just really kind of focused more and more on that. So with single vineyard wines, as well as the AVAs, so the Dundee and the Eola Amity, and in the future Chehalis Mountain AVAs. But
what's the longest vineyard you've worked with? Longest single vineyard you've
Anderson family. That would be 10 years. Yeah, we've been with them, and yeah.
And I bet that's fun too, right? As you get to know what the site offers.
Oh, definitely.
Through all the vintage variation, and as you're working with it. It's
and as the site ages into its own too, from vines that are fairly young and more, like a kid, they're more volatile. They react much quicker to the weather, the place they are, or what's thrown at them. As they get older, they don't sway as much. They kind of ease into it. It's just like, as you get older, you're just less pushed by stimuli. You just kind of take it in a little bit, and the vines just have an easier time as they get older. They get the deeper root systems. They just they don't react to weather extremes.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, what stimuli are we going to take in first?
We're gonna
Nice.
we're gonna stimulate ourselves with a little Pinot Blanc from. This is actually all it's Willamette Valley AVA on the label, although I could label it as McMinnville AVA. It's actually all Meredith Mitchell Vineyard in the McMinnville AVA, which is it's one of those unique areas where it's very hot and very cool. You get very hot afternoons, but given it's right in the Van Duzer corridor, closer to the Coast Range, or really in the Coast Range, it cools down the quickest. So you always get very good acidity there, especially for the whites and for the red wine, the Pinot Noirs as well. And we pick based on acidity, so we definitely get more of that citrusy style of fruit rather than trying to keep it away from that tropical area where it gets in that golden apple to pineapple area. We try to keep it primary and fresh. And
a lot of range with Pinot Blanc, right? Like you really can go all the way into pineapple if you want to, right?
You can, yeah. So we ferment this mainly in neutral oak barrels. So it's in old oak, 6-year-old barrels.
That makes a ton of sense.
And we age it sur lie for 6 months. So we like that bright acidity, but we like to flesh out the palate with sur lie aging and oak fermentation. It also keeps it from being too estery and fruity. We're not trying to make a super fruity style Pinot Blanc. We want it to be fairly demure and show really kind of earthiness, minerality really, more than earthiness.
I feel like the stony character definitely does come through well in the nose. and a little bit of the white flower notes. Not quite as extreme as in the examples of Pinot Blanc from riper fruit that we talked about. But it's definitely pretty engaging and has like a round feel to it without seemingly smelling heavy.
Yeah, it's getting more floral actually. As it's
good descriptor for it, for sure.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And it's you know, the McMinn Malavier is on a lot of fractured basalt. It's a very thin soil series, but it's all on basalt, so the minerality really kind of shows in the wines from that area.
Fruits are reminding of like almost like young peach, but then with like lemon zest on it or something. It's just it's got this like overtone of citrus, but like still like a little bit of stone fruitiness. Smells wonderful. So
Yeah, that young stone fruit makes a ton of sense.
I should hire you guys to write my tasting notes because I hate it. You seem to be hitting it better than I do.
I was just saying, like the 2014 whites. I don't know. I mean, or I should say whites I had from 2012. We had talked a little bit about this prior. It was kind of. Would you say they're similar vintages, 2012 and 2014?
In a lot of ways, yes.
Okay.
Right. We had a much bigger crop load in 14. It was a little bit warmer in 14, but from a chemistry standpoint, yeah, they're more similar than not.
Okay.
Is the best way to put it. I have a hard time saying any vintages is totally like the other.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's always
their own
variation.
thing, but yeah, it's that would be the closest.
Okay. Yeah, just there's a brightness and a forwardness on the nose. It smells wonderful. I got this a lot in 2012 with some of the Pinot Blancs and Pinot Gris, and this is just an extension of that. Sort of reminds me, it brings back memories of that. So,
oh, that's good to hear. It's and what I like about it, I mean, and you know, going to that oak fermentation, the creaminess across the mid palate, but it finishes a little rocky. You know, it has like a salty mineral kind of like a river stone. You know, that rounded off stone, like it's on your tongue a little bit. It kind of reminds me of that.
On the palate, it's really reminding me a lot of Rieslings that I like, texture-wise, where it is that, like just like he was saying, kind of that round mid palate, and the acidity is definitely there, but it's got a really good, clean texture to it, and it dries things out pretty elegantly for such a young wine.
agreed.
Yeah, and the flavors are delicate too, right? Nothing's really strong in your face, just that young stone fruit, right? Like really nice limes, just real clean flavors.
Yeah, and it's a little bit of even like underripe nectarine. Even it has this.
Agreed.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It's like almost like a young stone fruitiness, but like then the citrus components are really sticking out more on the palate. The way that like the minerality kind of comes in way late on the finish, but the acidity's done a lot of work on the tongue. So it's really good.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Sorry, I probably poured too much.
No, it's all right.
Shoot it.
You can, yep.
We're professionals.
Very pleasant. Yeah, exactly. The least professional wine blog on the internet.
Second wine is actually my first Gamay Noir. Having worked at Brickhouse Vineyards for a few years, I was really excited to make Gamay Noir, finally.
They've been doing it a while, right?
Yeah, Doug, I think since 93, I would say.
Okay.
I'm not sure about that. It might have been 95, I can't remember.
I
think it was part of the
started to
second
pay attention to it, so yeah.
Yeah, I mean, having worked there and Doug making some of the best Gamays, I've always enjoyed Gamay, and so I wanted to work with it, and there's not much around the valley. In 2013, I was fortunate to work with Myron Redford, formerly of Amity Vineyards. He has since sold that business, but he and his I think partner, spouse, Vicky Weddle, they have a small vineyard in the Eola Amity Hills just down the street from our new winery, and Redford Weddle Farm. So 2013, yeah, it was the first one. We made it a little differently, somewhat similar to the way Doug does it, in that we fermented it like Pinot Noir, not carbonic, but just hand punched down, mostly just down. But unlike Brickhouse, we did do some whole cluster fermentation, about 30%, and then we did age it longer. We aged it about 15 months in barrel, and no new wood, nothing remotely new. About 4-year-old barrels, 4 and 6-year-old barrels. So we wanted it to be fairly pure in its expression, but with that extended aging, it kind of takes it into a slightly different place, like a more aged Beaujolais cru.
Okay.
And if you've been drinking a few of the Gamays
Those
from
is
Oregon,
awesome.
well, some of them have carbonic. Even the ones that don't from around here are still often made as wines to make and release quickly and don't spend nearly that much time in the barrel. Right, they're bottled pretty quickly after.
Yeah,
It's
and
true.
And you know, nothing against carbonic. In fact, I will
No, I
experiment
don't.
with
Yeah.
it in the future
Yeah.
because I experimented with it last year and I really like the results, and I'll definitely be playing with it more and more. But this is what I knew, and so you know, now we're going to take it in different directions and see which way is the right way.
Oh man, this is.
Yeah.
We've been hanging out for maybe almost an hour before we started the show, and
Yeah.
boy, the nose has really opened up even since we started.
Totally.
There's a lot going on now.
Yeah.
I would agree. The biodynamic calendar be damned.
Oh, there you go.
In
Right.
this case, absolutely, yeah.
I know. We checked the calendar and it said no. Don't drink wine today. We're drinking wine today.
Like when we first smelled it, when we first opened it, like it had this sort of like cherry menthol thing that like you get in like cherry cough drops sometimes, and that's still there. But now there's like a very distinct like herbal quality to it. Like it's almost like fresh rosemary, or like we talked about anise before, but like it's not
Oh, that's
sort of
yes.
anisey, but like it's
I
somewhere in
agree
there.
with that rosemary. It's almost
Yeah.
like a distilled version, like an oil of the rosemary.
Yeah.
It's not quite that freshness, but like
Right.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
weird. It's the nose is all over the place on this, but it's providing really kind of very fun flavors.
It's
so.
some really nice dark earth, like dark wet earth going
Yeah.
on. So,
Like black pepper or something. I don't know. There's something dark, but yeah.
Cool wine.
yeah.
I always with Gamay, I'm always thinking of it's like brushy. It's like it's the berries and the growth around it all together. It's not just one component. It's like the whole bush put into a bottle. That's why I always thought about Gamay Noir. It's a little more animal. It's not all about the fruit, or to me anyway, or depends how you make it, but
Right.
it has this brushiness and this animalisticness to it that I loved.
That's super memorable. You're good at making wine remarks that stick with me. I still think about when I have like a little more tannic structure in wine. I still think about in Pinot Noir. I still remember you talking about that and targeting it as food. Wines for the table, and that's you like that tannic structure as a component of that.
Yeah, when we ferment the wines, we don't have we take them as dry as pretty darn dry in the fermenter. But when we decide to press the wines off with all the wines, we're tasting them every day, and we're tasting them. And when you have all that alcohol being a solvent, the tannins build and build and build, and the wine gets to this point where it's kind of bitter and harsh. But if you just wait a little longer, and it'll go from this kind of clamped down harshness to just opening up into this very broad and textural thing. And that's when we press off the wines. And you're trying to build this tannin, let it polymerize a bit, and then it becomes this plush and textural thing rather than a astringent thing.
Well, I bet that patience comes easier after you've been doing it for a decade too, right?
Yeah, having 14 years with my own business now, and it's.
I feel like when you're new, going through that
Oh,
stage,
no.
it's got to be just like
No,
biting your knuckles
fingernails
the
are
whole
gone.
time. Yeah.
totally.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Is it just getting greener? Does it just get greener forever?
No, I was very reactive when I
Yeah.
was young, and going back to that vine analogy,
Yeah.
it's like I was much more reactive when I was younger. But having been around, it's like no, it's gonna go. And those are the things you can be told that you have to learn to actually understand. And I think it took me 5 years to figure out what I wanted to make. 5 years of making wine to know exactly what I wanted to make, and then probably another 2 or 3 years to figure out exactly how to get there. And now I feel like I'm where I want to be, and it's just trying to fine tune everything. It's not like that. You got to understand the sites and how it works. Every year is different, and so you just got to figure it out how it's going to work every year. to a certain degree.
Yeah.
And then there's luck.
I feel like the structure here is in a really good place now. It's definitely full across the palate, and I think it's there from beginning to end. You kind of get both the combination of the acidity and the tannins kind of lingering across the whole palate, and then right in the center I get that kind of typical Gamay fruit where I get that, you know, like black spicy fruit, a little bit of rose petals, kind of lingering underneath
Definitely.
the structure.
Yeah, it's also like even some like wild strawberry in there, and God, almost like cranberry or something like that. Something.
Yeah, it's just, cranberry or like pomegranate almost, but like
yeah, somewhere
in there where it's like very like bright red fruit that's not berry fruit, like something.
Sure.
Yeah. But, I was sitting there, I was thinking about the descriptor too, but this wine has opened up again on the palate quite a bit, right? Like it was the fruit was fairly compact when we first opened it, really like a tight expression across the palate. Now it's like just fleshed out. It's got a really nice texture on the palate. So
it's a funny thing, you know, when we make the wines and we leave them in barrel sur lie for 15 to 18 months depending on the wine for the reds, and they're pretty tightly wound and they just need some air, and it's like it's such a hard thing to tell people because they always, everybody's always about the now, and it almost sounds a little bit like BS to say, oh, it just needs time, and so.
And to be true, some people even use that as a cop out, right?
It sounds like a cop out, and so
Yeah.
and it's nice to see that you guys see it, and of course,
Totally.
it's not just me saying it, because it's how it is. I mean, it's just evolving all the way through because these wines have seen very little air in their 18 months of life in barrel, and now about a year in bottle. At least, this one's only been in bottle for, 6 months. But
And it happens to
This
show us
is
from
a
time to
year.
time. Yeah, and we like it because so really, if you get a bottle of Gamay, open it up an hour before you drink it, or maybe drink a glass and let it sit. But
splash
seems-
decant or
yeah,
there seems to be a little bit of buzz about Gamay in the Willamette Valley now.
it's blowing up.
There,
Right?
it,
Yeah,
it
like-
is. I don't think it'll ever be huge, but I think it's going to grow quite a bit. I see more of it going in the ground. I see.
You can't say that about many grapes.
No.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. Exactly. I'm excited. Actually, Bjornson Vineyard has some Gamay coming on this year. One of the vineyards I work with quite a bit, so that'll be fun
Nice.
to work with as well.
Cool.
So I'll have 2 vineyards of Gamay in 2015.
Right on. Yeah, this is definitely one worth checking out. So cool wine.
So now we're on to Dundee Hills Pinot Noir 2012, which is 100% from Anderson Family Vineyard, which is a vineyard I've been with for 10 years. It's a blend of 3 different clones, 667, Badensville, and Pomard. It's fermented with 40% whole cluster fermentation, so really get some briar, kind of like dried underbrush kind of aromas from that whole cluster fermentation, as well as some more tannic structure to the wines. We aged these wines in barrel for 18 months. This one saw kind of atypically more new wood at 40%. It's kind of a fun wine for the Dundee Hills. It's very red fruited. And again, they're just evolving. It almost gets a little, almost stone fruity in this, like peachy.
Yeah, almost.
There's like a peachiness.
A lot
It's
of
weird.
floral.
My mind doesn't
Yeah.
initially go there, but it's totally. Yes, I would totally agree.
But definitely floral, definitely. And red even, and some darker plum notes too.
Yeah. So there's a little bit of like the darker red fruits here, like maybe a little dark cherries. Just had a great bag of ripe cherries recently. So yeah,
It's that time of
That's
year.
funny, I
right?
did-
man, it is. The cherries are just perfect right now, as Matt would say, on fleek. So,
On fleek.
Yeah. Sorry, I had to do it. All right.
My wife and I were on a road trip last week up through Okanagan up into the Canadian Rockies.
Nice.
And
Cool.
we're just eating like bags of cherries
Yeah.
from Okanagan just in the car, eating cherries, blueberries. There's so many fruit stands up there. It's
I know.
amazing.
Wow. Just the berries this year have just been wonderful. So been picking a lot.
Yeah,
So.
blackberries out of my place, going
Yeah.
crazy. Right.
Got some blackberries on the new winery property. I gotta go start looking at.
Mhm. Make blackberry wine.
No.
Maybe not.
I don't need
Nice.
something else.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, good level of richness, great black fruit, a little bit of earthiness, some good complexity on the nose.
This is also evened out after being open for a while. The texture on the front of the palate is a lot more
solid.
round.
More round mid palate.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And then the brighter red fruits kind of show up a little later. And it's interesting. I was getting a little more tannic structure when we tried it earlier, and now
It's really
that's
soft.
it is. It's really in
very
the
soft.
background.
Isn't
I'm
it
getting-
amazing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was a little harsh at first, and it's really soft and round on the palate now. The tannins are not sticking out at all. They're there, but they're just very finely integrated.
And not like the super lush and thick soft. It's just more the elegant, delicate, light texture.
The fruit components are really nice though. Like it's sort of reminding me of like a strawberry jam or strawberry syrup that you would use on shortcake or something, with like fresh cherry or fresh strawberries in it.
Oh man.
A little bit of cherries in there as well. But just those, really nice progression into the finish with the acid and the way the tannins are. This was definitely a little, what's the word? It's almost like just in multiple pieces when we first tasted it. And now it's just rounded out, and the air has really helped it integrate.
It has,
quite well.
yeah.
So
It's I think it speaks a lot to the three different sites, or rather blocks we have in there. We have 667 clone, which faces kind of northeast. The vineyard's like a knob that faces east. You have some north slope and some south slope and due east slope. So the 667's on that northeast slope.
okay.
The Badensville's kind of due east, and the Pomard's on the southeast. And so it almost shows all the sides very well. That darker, more brooding side's that Pomard, where you get that hotter southeast sun. Whereas the Badensville is very bright red, and the Badensville's due east, but it's also a later ripening clone relative to the north slope, the 667. So I think even though it's more east than north, you get more of that bright redness from the Badensville, and whereas the 667 I think is somewhere in the middle. So it's really interesting to see it all come together, whereas I would agree before it was many pieces that weren't together, and now it's somewhat together.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I feel like the strawberries really linger long too.
Yeah.
Again, they're not too heavy, but just this nice touch of flavor that sticks around for a long time.
Based on this is going to be interesting moving into the next wine.
Yeah.
Because this is really rounded out and a really nice wine. So
Yeah.
if you do open one of these soon, give it a little bit of air, splash decant it, because this is freaking awesome now with about an hour of air.
Yeah, and if you pour it straight from the bottle into the glass right away, you'll probably be a little surprised. You'll be like, what's going on?
Some time.
Because every 30 seconds before we were sniffing it and tasting it, it was like a different wine, but it's come to
It
a
really
nice
was.
place after opening up for a while.
Yeah, that's a cool thing about wine. It's just ever evolving. It's its own living thing. It's not a product. It's not Coca-Cola. It's not going to be the same thing every time. That's
Definitely.
We hope not.
no. So, 2012 Eola Amity Hills. So this is a blend of two vineyards, mostly from Bjornson Vineyard, which is just an awesome site right next door to Seven Springs. And then a little bit of Zenith Vineyard, a little bit, just literally probably 2-3 miles as a crow flies away from Bjornson Vineyard, but a little bit lower. So Bjornson tends to be a little bit more of the concentration and structure of the wine, whereas the Zenith tends to be a little bit more of the opulence of this wine. It tends to be a little bit redder, whereas Bjornson tends to be dark and brooding and more mineral. My block in Zenith Vineyard is somewhat atypical. I think it's a warmer block within the vineyard, so it tends to be very red fruited, whereas a lot of the blocks there tend to be a little bit more darker and intense. My block, which is Pomard, 100% Pomard, is very protected from the winds, and so it tends to be very convectionary, lots of warmth that just gets held there, whereas the wind-affected blocks...
So what's going on this year?
We'll see. Last year it was my first pick by a week. This year, we picked it on September 13th last year. I'd say September 7th this year. We'll see.
All right.
earliest ever.
Much darker on the nose than the Dundee Hills wine. Right
Fruitier
away.
too, yeah.
Yeah, it's like more like blackberries. It's
Yeah, that darker profile always comes from the Bjornson vineyard. It sits only about 550 feet at the top, about 100 feet difference to the bottom, but very windswept, very
it's important.
thin soils with a fractured basalt sublayer. So you always get these small berries, thick skins, high pigmentation, high concentration.
So that's good for your blends then too, right? Always got
Definitely,
that component
yeah.
to it. Yeah, definitely the earthy notes, definitely the darker cherries, maybe the little plums or something like that. Yeah.
Almost like a little bit of licoricey notes to this one too, like somewhere between red and black, but they're just like blackberry fruit. Like it's definitely a darker fruit characteristic than the last one.
I'm going to kind of put you on the spot here. So as I'm talking about this, I find like I'd be saying the same things about a lot of the nose on a lot of wines from Yamhill Carlton. Is there anything about Eola Amity that stands out in the nose to you, or anything that's like distinctive?
You know, Eola Amity's come to be my favorite growing area. I've worked in every sub-AVA of the Willamette Valley, and Eola Amity, I think, to me, it has the most natural balance of what I like, which is that red to black fruit, good bright acidity, and good tannic structure. In like Yamhill Carlton, I think tends to be a little bit on the blacker fruits, in sometimes into the blue spectrum. But we try to be very hands-off in our winemaking, indigenous yeast. You know, we have to add acid some years, but we try to be very limited, and the Eola Amity Hills tends to produce the most naturally balanced grapes to me.
Cool.
And that's, you know, of course, very subjective.
Totally. But it's great to get these kind of opinions, right?
Yeah.
I mean, because everybody's heart gets
Love
attached
that
on
growing
it.
area.
Yeah.
And the wines of Christum have always, all those years in the restaurant, Christum wines have been some of my favorites, and so I've always, Steve Dorner
I
is
need to
like
drink more of
that
that.
beacon
Yeah,
really good.
of style and hope. I love that area, and I love his wines, and I love that growing area, and so yeah.
Yeah, he's been an icon in so many ways, and I feel like he's influenced a lot of people, and I still think, I like the wines pretty regularly, but he's one of those people that's definitely doing his own thing, right, in the Willamette Valley. Like, his style is definitely unique, and he's been at it for a long time, and it's really solid, so.
But yeah, I mean, he was, I think, the person who showcased the AVA the best from the beginning, and
Nice.
yeah.
Oh.
Although there's the Bethel Heights Southeast Block Reserve, that's pretty damn awesome too.
Yes.
But,
There's no
Bethel
shortage
Heights
of good wines
wines,
today,
yeah. See, the first wine that ever, the wine that turned me into a wine lover was Eola, or excuse me, Evesham Wood.
yeah,
Yeah,
well,
there's
there's the
their
Cuvée
Willamette
J,
Valley.
yeah.
It's their Willamette Valley, but it blew me away with how good it was. So, and then as I delved more into wine initially, it was Eola Amity all the way, right off the bat. But now I'm a big fan of Dundee.
Yeah, Dundee's, it's a prettier cousin, it's like the more delicate kind of style, very well, depends on how you make it, of
depends on
course.
it.
Because there are
Absolutely.
those who
Depends on the
push it
style.
into
There are
realms,
There are those.
different places,
Absolutely.
but to me it's very red, very floral, a touch herbaceous,
Yeah.
and very pretty, and
Agreed.
a touch more delicate, powdery tannin. That thicker volcanic soil, you tend to get these larger grapes with thinner skins, and the tannins tend to be very powdery and soft and fine grained. And it's a different style of wine that I also love, but yeah, Dundee's kind of where my heart is, or excuse me, Eola Amity is where my heart is,
Yeah.
and Dundee's sometimes it's kind of just another
Yeah.
Yep. Another love.
another love.
Eola Amity was your first love.
Yes.
Yeah. So, we never forget our first loves. So that's true.
when we were talking about this earlier, something that was striking to all of us, I think, was that this wine was pretty accessible right away. I think that's still true. I think you're getting a lot of full fruit flavors across the palate right away. Again, it's not heavy, it's not jammy. I think the acidity and the tannins work together to keep things kind of crisp, and just an edge of tartness to this across the palate, which is a good contrast with the darker fruit flavors, I think.
Right, with the initial richness on the palate, right?
Totally.
Like, and you were talking about fine grained tannins. Like the tannins here have a pretty nice feel to them. Like they're actually pretty fine grained, and the tartness and the way the acidity works in the finish is really a nice contrast to the fruit initially. So good.
Yeah, they're. I think with all the whole cluster in here, we've built up the tannin a little bit, and they're a little bit soft and plush. But while I think there's the tannin there is not obtuse, but it's not powdery. You know,
Right,
it's
right.
chunkier.
Good point. Yes.
Yeah, to me.
Definitely
Agreed,
form.
yeah.
We said that this is a more accessible wine for people that like different styles too,
Mhm.
right? Like if you enjoy some Italian reds, or if you enjoy some other red wines that have a little more punch to them, this is a good one to kind of bridge that gap.
Agreed.
Try some Oregon Pinot Noir. You said you just sold some of this in Texas. Where can people in Texas pick this up?
Hollies in Houston. Boy.
All right, boy, really threw you on the spot. We can throw this out if you want to.
Specs.
Nice.
I think.
right.
We don't know yet exactly.
Oh, okay. Well,
I'll
just forget. What
I'm
did
very
that. That's fine.
edit that out
Yeah.
because I'm
No
very
problem.
bad at
That's
remembering
okay.
that stuff because I don't have a sales manager.
Gotcha. Well, and I guess it's good if there's enough that you can't remember it all too. Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
True.
we'll carry on. Nice wine.
Help yourself.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
This is out in a number of states in the country now too, right? Like you.
Yeah, we are in 23 states.
Holy smoke!
Not
Congratulations. That's yeah.
not every wine.
No, but still, I think that's
But still to get
I think a
your
lot
wine
of
out there in your
small
name.
producers really envy that.
Yeah,
That's actually- that's
we're in Quebec as well.
Wow.
A little bit in London. Actually, this wine is available in the UK.
That's awesome.
If you live in the UK, check it out. Right? I know there's
Denmark
not a lot
has
of
a
great
little bit
Oregon wine.
commuter cuvee, and a little bit in Hong Kong too. So we're getting
Awesome.
around. You know, those export markets are tiny. You know, they're
Yeah, but-
all right. But it's fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Someday
exciting,
I can
right?
write off a trip.
Yeah, totally.
But
Which is never a bad thing. Yeah.
yeah,
To meet some interesting people,
Travel
and I
is
think
I love travel, and
Yeah.
you know, it is much as it's about making the wine, but it's you know, wine's about a good time and
And getting to share it, right?
yeah,
Especially
share
pretty,
it with
probably,
people
probably
from all
pretty
over the
exciting when
world.
it's yours too, right? Like you know, you're the book of knowledge on these wines, right? It's probably pretty exciting to get to go and share this with people.
Yeah, and actually, it's funny that UK distributor, you know, I sell a little bit of wine there. I actually had some people who bought my wine in London who came to the winery on Monday.
wow, that's super cool.
It's crazy. I
Yeah.
had no idea that was gonna. They emailed me on Sunday.
Yeah.
It's like, we're going to be in the area. We bought your wine from the Sampler in London, which is they're a distributor / online retailer, and
Wow.
yeah, we want to come by, and so they came by. It was pretty fun.
Man, that
Yeah.
and I bet just great
That's
for
gotta
them
be
too,
good.
right? To have some preview of what they were going to see before they came.
Yeah, and they got to try because in London there's only 2 wines available: the Eola Amity and the Willamette Valley blend, and so they got to try something else. I didn't pour those wines. I poured a bunch of different wines.
That's great.
Yeah,
Excellent.
yeah, something new.
Cool.
So lastly, on the last thing we typically do for the show, we didn't tell you ahead of time, but I hope you would remember.
A question.
we got it.
Question of the day. So, do you have a question that you would ask of the viewing audience, the internet? Could be really about anything.
I wish you'd prepped me.
Sports, wine, whatever.
Bike racing, it's that time of year.
Yeah.
It's that time of
I'm sort of friends right now. If you could plant any grape in Oregon,
I love it.
knowing our climate,
Willamette
what
Valley.
would it be? Well,
Willamette
yeah, Willamette Valley.
Valley?
Thank you.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you.
Willamette Valley,
If you
or
could plant any grape in Oregon, in the Willamette Valley, what would it be?
what would you plant?
Yeah.
Verdejo.
Oh,
I think
Interesting.
Verdejo. I really want somebody to plant some Verdejo.
I've
might
had some
have to
pretty
wait a while
exciting
for that.
experiences with Syrah from the White Valley that have
You know,
kind of got me
I've had
excited.
some- Yeah, Marcus's Syrah.
Yeah.
Holy shit, that's good.
We did a vertical
Yeah, awesome.
of all of his Syrah, every
It's
single
like-
one of them, and I was just
I love that wine.
so.
It's
I'm pumped
almost
about
sale-proof, but it's beautiful. I mean, you know, we're friends. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard. I mean, I'm not saying it against him.
Right,
I'm just saying
no.
it's like Willamette Valley Syrah.
Yeah.
It's
Man, all you
it's-
just need to do is just need to taste it. And it's
exactly.
it's so good.
And yeah, but I think Verdejo would be very interesting. I mean, Cabernet Franc. Scott Frank's got some Cabernet Franc planted for him, which would be interesting. I think it'll be great in hot years for red wines, but in cool years
Great.
he'll probably make
2015. It's
sparkling.
gonna go all right.
Yeah.
It's gonna go all right this year. Yeah.
Dan, what would you plant?
You know, it's Riesling, man. I gotta
Yeah.
stick to it.
All right.
Okay,
well,
but something new.
Oh, something that's not here.
Yeah.
Oh,
Come on.
well, now I know Albarino's here. Excuse me.
Yeah.
is Albarino in the
no-
north? In
I
the
had
Oh, yeah.
no idea what you were saying at
Ponzi makes some.
from Willamette Valley.
Yeah. Redmond Vineyard in River Ridge. They have some. I think Ann Hubach bought. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. That's Arnaise. Sorry, Ponzi makes Arnaise. I'm sorry. I was wrong.
But I was like,
Sorry,
man,
it's
I
another A.
didn't know that there was Albarino here in the Willamette
No,
Valley. It's-
but yeah, I shouldn't say that's for sure. I
Okay.
think there's Albarino.
But I thought you said Myron had some.
I think he has some.
Okay. All right.
I'm not entirely sure.
All right. Because I know Albarino from Southern Oregon. There's been
Yeah.
one that has got me excited about it. Like there's a possibility that
Avisella.
many people. Yeah, Avisella.
Yeah, they do a good job.
They do a good job. So.
It's nice wine. But yeah, I think, you know, Verdejo's grown in fairly cool climates in Spain, so I think it could do well here. It might do better in Hood River, but I think it'd be pretty darn interesting here.
Yeah. Have your good years. Okay, I'm gonna go with Pinot Anise, whatever. It's some weird, I think like generally Swiss or like kind of up in the mountains. Red wine that I've only had one of. It was delicious. I guess I don't drink a whole lot of unusual wines, but I know that that's not here right now, so
Yeah.
that would be my pick.
All right.
So that's a show. Thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for inviting us.
Yeah,
Thank you so
sure.
much for having us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
And we'll see you guys next time.
Cheers.